Well, good evening. It's been a long time. Welcome back to our segment on Cat Space. I'm Cat. This is Buckets, and with us is our best friend Leon. Hi, Leon. How are you?
Ta-da!
Ta-da!
Face reveal. Face reveal.
Partial face reveal.
So we
By
were
about next year, that'll be my hairstyle anyway.
so we were thinking
Accurate.
instead of doing a serious podcast, why don't we just chill back, relax, and enjoy tonight? We want to welcome our new subscribers and our current subscribers and viewers. Hope you like tonight's show. This will be on YouTube really soon, and we will put it to audio, so look out for that. Hope you stick around and invite your friends. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, click on the bell, and you receive all the content that you want, as well as audio. We are on Spotify, so follow us there as well. Tonight's fun topic is favorite movies of all time. Let's get started. Number one, what is your favorite movie of all time? Go, Leon.
Wow. I hate to say impartial, but I'm kind of half spoiling one of my favorite movies right here. The Simpsons would probably be my favorite because obviously I've been a huge fan of The Simpsons since it started. I remember, was it back in 2007 when it came out? I was over at the Parramatta Cinema at the time. I don't think it was Hoyt's at the time, but it turned out to be Hoyt's in the end. But there was a huge crowd of just Simpson nutcases. They absolutely were, Simpson mad. And obviously I was in that queue. But one thing I did, just having fun, was just throwing in my little voices, because I could do some of the voices of the Simpsons, like, "Hello, I'm Barney Gumble. Anyone been to malls?" Yeah, it's and I was just having so much fun. I was having the time of my life. I was like a kid in a candy store. But yeah, obviously I would go with The Simpsons for sure. It had its funny moments like it does. It also has its serious moments like it does. But it all turns out right in the end.
Buckets?
I have to say, basically my favorite movie of all time. I mean, I have a lot, but probably one of my favorite movies of all time would have to be Star Wars, the original Star Wars. Where you've got A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. I think that was my favorite one because it was, it wasn't just a sci-fi clip kind of thing. It really was
Revolutionary.
Yeah, it really was revolutionary. And the way that it was done, there's like little things that you learn. For example, when the Empire is when Darth Vader is walking down the Death Star and looking over to the glass screen and stuff like that. When you look at it on film, it looks as if they're real soldiers, but the truth is all of that was just painted on to save money. And there's the bit where Luke and Han both got a medal, and all the soldiers, I think 4 or 5 lines of the soldiers were real, but the rest were just cardboard cutouts, and they were so well done that no one knew the difference. But just little techniques like that. But I think one of the best things I loved about it was the dog fights, because they used real World War II air fighting, and then he just used the techniques of that, and then just made new planes, but still had the same formats for which they were fighting each other. So that's kind of things that were quite revolutionary. Not to mention the fact that he would always start his movies with "a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away," which is...
If I remember, while we're on that, while you mentioned that, in the galaxy far, far away, if I remember right, I remember seeing some sort of behind the scenes thing where it was done on some big, gigantic screen at the time, because, that couldn't have been done under normal circumstances back in the 70s when Star Wars came out. If I remember right, I may be wrong, but I remember seeing something like that in maybe a behind the scenes.
Originally, what they actually did, because they wanted to make that movie like an adventure kind of thing, not just boring. But around about that time, Flash Gordon was really popular. And so if you look at the original intro of Flash Gordon, it's in the same format as Star Wars. So it's almost like they're reading the same sort of format. So they kind of copied off Flash Gordon and then brought it into their own movie to say, hey, this is an action adventure sci-fi that matches up with Flash Gordon. So they did a lot of things, and there's even things like I said, the in a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Well, George Lucas was really the first artist to kind of play with time. So he's saying this happened a really, really, really long time ago, but it happened in the future, kind of thing. So it's one of the things he's actually really, really good at is playing with time. So that's why I think Star Wars was really one of my favorite movies, because it was, as you put it, so revolutionary.
I think
Yeah, Kat.
my one would have to be Back to the Future 1 and 2.
Oh, yeah. Go figure that. Go figure that. There's no real shock there, is there?
No,
the same way
no.
as there was no real shock about the shirt I'm wearing, huh?
No. Back to the Future, I think, because it's just so epic. Like you could really have a look at, Bucket said, Star Wars was revolutionary, but to me, Back to the Future 1 and 2 were revolutionary, because if you look back, they travel back to the past, then back to the future, back to the past, and back to the future. And you could see things like holograms, and you could see like different houses, and you could see, smartphones, mobile phones, you could see like Skype, Zoom, things like that. You could see like stuff that is happening nowadays that is slowly coming out that they predicted would happen. And I think that was revolutionary, because they showed us what the future may possibly look like going forward. And
they were actually pretty accurate as well. That's the funny thing. Very accurate.
Like,
it was also very accurate in predicting things from the future. The Simpsons, they always predicting stuff, and it always ends up happening.
Like the Cubs winning the World Series in the Sports Almanac, they were 1 year off. Yeah, they were 1 year off from that. QR codes, for example, if you look back, things like that. It was just so perfectly done. And Christopher Lloyd and Michael J. Fox, their acting was phenomenal. And
the ultimate combination.
And I think those two were my favorite movies of all time.
Wasn't there something about that movie though, that they casted someone before Michael J. Fox, and then they did like basically the whole movie without Michael J. Fox, and then realized, you know what, Michael J. Fox would be much better in this role, and then just did it with him.
Yeah.
Wasn't Michael J. Fox doing like Family Ties around the time of Back to the Future? I think he might have been.
No. He was younger in Family Ties. He was much younger.
Right, okay.
And Back to the Future, I think he was just slightly a bit older, like in his 20s, but right. I think those two were my favorite movies. Next question. What movie has impacted you growing up, i.e., I can't read my writing.
You wrote it.
Rebel Without a Cause, Star Wars, Karate Kid, Back to the Future 1 and 2, Father of the Bride 1 and 2, My Big Fat Greek Wedding 1 and 2. What was that one that you wanted? War Games as well.
Yeah, you know what? I saw that movie a really, really, really long time ago, and it was made in the 80s, I believe. And that movie scared everyone shitless, because the thing about War Games is that everyone thought, because everyone was heading towards all this advanced technology during the 80s, everyone thought, okay, what if all of a sudden that we start instead of basically having men operate weapons like nuclear weapons and all those sorts of things, what if we put a computer in charge of it and see what would happen? And that, I do remember that when that movie came out, it literally scared it, excuse the language, it scared everyone shitless, because it thought, well, what if that actually does happen? And what if, for whatever reason, the computer makes a computer decision instead of without emotions, instead of a human decision with emotions. And that was probably one of the reasons why America and probably many other countries that still have nuclear weapons probably are still controlled by old DOS bars that are still controlled by humans, as opposed to setting it up with modern technology, where all you really need to do is just press one button and that's it.
I think what movie impacted me again, and I'm going to say this again, was Back to the Future, because Back to the Future, they not just talked about the past and the future going backwards and forwards. You could see Doc Brown, Doc Brown using everyday materials to fuel the DeLorean, and he didn't fill up with unleaded or gas or anything. He actually used things like paper and banana peel and things that were leaky, things like that. It sort of helped with they in a strange but particular way talked about climate change.
But that's like
They're not climate change, climate change. They talked about how they would fuel their cars. I mean, currently, the way we run, our world is so so filled with things in the air, and sort of they made that nod to it in a way, because you see him putting stuff in the car to fuel it, like putting petrol in, and sort of that was a mark for me where I thought, yeah, that's very profound.
Well, I thought, now looking back at that movie, I just thought, well, technically we're actually kind of doing that now. So we are using greener fuels, like say the banana peel that goes into the flux capacitor. I guess you could relate that to making green fuels, which actually does happen in India. They use a lot of their rubbish and they turn that into an actual fuel source, and they'll call that green fuel.
But the thing is about that movie is that how it impacted me was it showed me what the past looked like and how exciting it was and how scary the world will look going forward. I mean, you're looking at going back to the future, literally saying what the world's going to look like in 20, 30, 40 years time from now, changes in atmosphere, change in the world, way we live, things like that. What about you?
I think one of the movies that really changed, changed a little bit, changed how I thought about things. I would have been one, I don't know if you guys remember it. I think it might have been called Minority Report. It featured Tom Cruise, I think.
Yeah.
And it was like him and his team trying to prevent future murders and future criminal activities and stuff like that. It was kind of really, to me, it was kind of out of left field and stuff like that. He believed, and I think the promo was like he believed in the system until the system came after him. And it also was one called The Others as well. I think it was starring Nicole Kidman, if I remember right.
That freaked me out.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, that was a really good movie. Trying to figure out, and it was at the end. Sorry, spoiler alert. But Nicole Kidman and her family was the dead family, and that really freaked me out. I was like, what? All this build up, and it was the other way around. That was crazy.
Oh, I'm scared to watch that. It gave me nightmares.
I think I've only ever watched it once, and it was at this. I watched it once. I think it was at the cinema. That was a wild movie. That was one of those crazy ones. I don't know if you watched the whole movie. I don't think you see that ending coming.
I'm interested that you actually said Minority Report, because technically we're living the Minority Report way, especially when John Howard. I'm sorry if I have to bring this political again, but when John Howard started creating suspected terrorism laws, that's effectively.
I think it was called retro. It wasn't called retrospective or retro. Yeah, it would have been retrospective.
He was creating the suspected terrorism laws that he was creating, right? That's basically the same concept of Minority Report, just without 3 children that can predict the future. Because you're basically suspected of a crime before you even commit it. And that's what suspected terrorism actually is.
There's another movie that impacted me, which was the that one with Sylvester Stallone and Wesley Snipes. What's the name of it? Demolition Man. And you know how,
Yeah. I think I've only ever seen this once.
they would, how he was in the cryogenic and Wesley Snipes was in the cryogenic, and they both came out at the same time. And you had people living underground, and you had people, the high society, living above ground, living, the lavish lifestyle where there's, people underground, cooking, eating, sleeping, breathing, living under the ground. And society, there's two parts of society, and the bottom was the worst and the higher was class. And even their cars are different, the way that they were driven, even their homes are different. How you just ask the house to turn, like nowadays we can say, hey Alexa, turn the lights on, and it would. But back then they even brought that, and it's sort of was like, wow. I mean, look at how everything works in Demolition Man. I mean, again, are we heading that way? And that's an important question to ask. That's another movie that impacted me, because you see it and you think, oh yeah, great acting, great actors, but you don't, when you sit down and you watch it again, pay attention to what's happening, because you'd be like, oh my God, is this going to really happen?
Well, on that little topic, I do believe that John Wayne is actually cryogenically frozen. So even though they haven't actually thawed out the Duke yet, maybe.
Is he? I didn't know that.
No, it's true. He is cryogenically frozen.
I thought Walt Disney was frozen as well.
He might be as well, but unless they find technology to thaw out the Duke, and
I thought we didn't have that yet.
Well, no,
I've heard that rumor myself. I remember Dennis Leary mentioned it in one of those songs that he made back in 1993. I think there was, the Duke was mentioned. I'm absolutely certain that the Duke was mentioned and also John Wayne. He was also mentioned in that same song. So I hear where Buckets is going on that, because I remember hearing that same rumor too. Also the rumor that Walt Disney was the same way as well. So I've heard the same thing.
I've known that he wanted to be frozen in time, so that if they were to bring him out, he could see how Disney World has changed when he actually looks at it. But I don't know if he's really frozen in time, or that's just a heresy. Or
no, he's frozen. It's just that we don't have the technology yet to defrost him.
How weird!
Yeah, we can't just pull a plug and just defrost him.
That's weird. How old would he be if he was defrosted? 80, 90?
No, he'd be stuck in time. He'd just probably be pissed off because he'd be really cold.
Isn't that something like Encino Man as well? Wasn't there a caveman that was thawed out and brought back into this world?
Yeah, he was.
Encino Man wasn't the same deal.
He was frozen, and he was brought to it, and they dug him out, and he was like in ice and everything because he was a caveman. And they dressed.
And guess what? They used a heater to defrost him.
Yeah, Brendan Fraser, what an actor! Kudos to him. Next,
what a mummy too.
Yeah. Next question: were black and white movies more reliant on a good story than CGI being the main factor?
See, I genuinely believe that movies were kind of made differently back then when it was black and white, because if you had a terrible movie whilst it was black and white, no one watched it, right? Okay, it wouldn't make any money, and actors and actresses would basically go bankrupt, right? So they had to rely on good storytelling, and if they didn't have good storytelling, then that was it. That was the end of their career. But you could go even further and say, well, what about silent movies that pretty much just relied on words, kind of thing?
Yeah, I haven't. Oh, silent movies. And they're the ones where you see like action, and then all of a sudden you see that thing come up in black and white, like, I'm going to push this button right here. And all of a sudden you do jump into a hole or some crazy black and white piano kind of stuff.
Yeah, and they did that with Zorro, because Zorro, the first original silent movies, Zorro was pretty much the best thing they can do, because all Zorro had to do was do his action stuff, and then there would be like a little piece of text that people would read off the screen, and then they'd watch Zorro do his thing again, and everyone loved that kind of thing. And that was
back then it was subtitles before subtitles were a thing.
Yeah, exactly. And in my opinion, you can call that revolutionary because
It led the way to subtitles.
It led to subtitles.
There you go.
There's a lot in debt with that kind of film.
I think look, to be honest, I'm sure subscribers and viewers would agree. I love a good storytelling. I love a beginning, middle, and an end. I don't mind green screen, but not too much green screen. When in movies of yesteryear, going back, green screen, you could tell, but it wasn't that bad. With modern day movies, the way they make movies now, it's like you can tell, oh, that's so green screen. That's green screen. That's CGI. That's CGI. That's green screen. Sort of like there's no substance to it. It's like cooking a delicious 5-star, degustation meal where you have the recipe, then you have the ingredients, and you chop them up and you cook them and you add the sauce, and you add a pinch of this and a pinch of that, and then you plate it and then you put it in front of the person eating it. That for me it's like a good meal. Now it's sort of like, oh, there's too much green screen or there's too much CGI. I like a really, 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 really good storytelling. It has to have a beginning, middle, and an end.
And you can also tell with certain movies, especially if you mix it in with a bit of the real life, and then all of a sudden you throw in some CGI and stuff like that, especially with 4K monitors or 4K TVs, I should say, with high refresh rates. You can tell like where people are walking back and forth, and then all of a sudden you see a CGI come in, and you can clearly tell that it's CGI. The trick is to not make it so obvious that it's real. Yeah. Because you want people in the back of your mind thinking, that's not real, but that's not real. But really, because I could tell you the TV that I've got, and I've spoiled this particular year. I've got a Hisense TV. I got it a couple of years ago. But anyway, the thing is, you can tell it where it's real and where it's CGI. You can easily tell, and that's a bad thing. If you can tell that, then they're not building their TVs right.
But how funny is it? Let's throw a random in there. How funny is it when it comes to favorite movies of all time, right? How funny is it before you had a massive boom camera, boom mic, actors, actresses dressing up, makeup, hair, whatever. You had a location or locations. Now, they don't have that. Now, a director could get his iPhone or her iPhone and actually record the movie on their iPhone, go home to their iMac and go on iMovie and actually produce that and direct that and edit it and put it together. Like, how strange is that now? Like,
someone's been watching that iPhone 13 ad.
No, but the thing is, to be honest, look at it. I mean, you've gone from the director going cut to like having an iPhone.
Well, the thing is that wasn't that like Pentatonics? They did an entire, what's the word? The
montage.
They did an entire song, right, on an iPhone.
Yeah, which is the Daft Punk one. When they first started, yes, they filmed that on an iPhone. Yeah. And they won 3 Grammys.
Oh, nice. I'm going to have to watch that because I love watching Pentatonic. That's great.
Yeah, they are. They're awesome. But you've gone from old-fashioned, let's put the camera together, sit behind the camera, yell cut, yell action, to now grabbing an iPhone, filming everything, taking it home to a Mac or a Mac laptop, putting it to iMovie, listening to it, editing, cutting, pasting, and then putting it out there to like a movie theater. Like how weird is that?
We've just got lazier, I think. I mean, the technology's gotten better, but we've gotten lazier. But my problem with today's movies is that, so like I remember when 3D movies were basically the cutting edge of technology, and in a way that they kind of still are. And they did that with Titanic. They also did that with Jurassic Park, which was a real biggie. And all of these were basically led by the famous James Cameron, of course. And they were great when they first started out. But then we noticed something that started to happen, which was we started to produce all these movies that were CGI, because that was the new standard. but it was almost like CGI got replaced by a decent story. And that was the one thing I really hated. So when I like I don't know if you watched this, but I watched the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, or the
The
original
cartoon.
the cartoon and the movie.
Oh, yeah.
And those costumes were made from scratch, right? They made them themselves, and they had their own robots to move the mouth and stuff. And they even employed 4 guys that were all black belts themselves in their own right to play the characters and do all the movements and things like that. So they really did all that. And then, a couple of decades later, they had a CGI version.
It doesn't work as good. Doesn't look as good.
No, it doesn't. And I think the only real improvement, to be perfectly honest, about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was Shredder. And I was kind of upset that the bad guy,
The kitchen utensil.
basically, well, yeah, the bad.
Yes,
guy
I watched the
basically-
original version of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I remember Raphael calling Shredder a kitchen utensil.
But
I still remember that. I've got all 10 seasons. I've got all 10 seasons of the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on DVD here.
Can I
That's
tell
how
you-
crazy I am.
Okay, well, for a start, you don't have all 10 seasons, because if you did, you'd also have the Power Ranger version of it. And that was terrible, by the way.
There's a Power Ranger version.
Yes, there's a Power Ranger version
Was there
where
a
Leonardo
crossover?
was a chick. Okay, so yeah, if you've got that, then I'll salute you, but I won't, because I hated that. Because they changed.
He's not going to salute me. Well, fine.
Can
I'll
I
give you
tell
a salute
you-
later on, but it'll be a bird. But
That was
anyway,
terrible.
well, according to this, I've got the 10 seasons of the Ninja Turtles anyway. Well, according to the US standards of practices, because they imported all 10 seasons. But anyway, but look, also here's another one. You mentioned about the created characters and stuff like Alf. What about Alf, the TV series as well?
Love that show.
I mean, was he in that costume all that time? That small fellow, was he in that costume all that time for the Elf character?
I always thought
Guessing so.
look, I always thought he was a puppet. Actually, I don't know if there was actually someone in him. To be perfectly honest.
I don't know either, but that could have been an earlier model for the Ninja Turtles movie as well, because Alf came out before the Ninja Turtles.
That's true. But I just remember the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the original movie. They really did an excellent job on that movie. I mean, they really did. And I loved all the sequels of those movies as well. And I just remember the nostalgia from those.
Oh,
movies.
yes.
It was just
That's probably
so
the reason
good.
why I got the DVDs, because of the nostalgia. That's probably one of the main reasons I got it, because of that nostalgia, and because at the time it was one of my favorite shows. But anyway,
I think let's pay homage and tribute to Shredder. And Shredder was James Avery, the amazing
Yes.
actor who played Uncle Phil.
wasn't he on Prince? Wasn't he on Fresh Prince?
He was Uncle Phil.
Okay, not even
Yeah,
I knew that. So
You wouldn't believe it, guys. In Star Trek, he also played a Klingon on Star Trek Enterprise. But was it season 4, I believe? It was one of the. I think it might have been Affliction and Diversion. Might have been those double episodes. He was a Klingon in Star Trek. So there you go.
He actually died, 7 years ago, 8 years ago? Uncle Phil, James Avery. Yeah. He passed away then, God rest his soul.
I heard something about Star Trek that basically anyone that has a red shirt has a 75 chance of actually dying on the show. Purely because they're wearing a red shirt, whereas everyone else who's got blue or yellow are like higher rankings. So they basically need them to stay alive because there has to be some sort of commander in charge.
I thought that was the people wearing the red shirts. They were the captain, the commander. Anyway,
Next question. If you could relive your childhood movie, what would it be?
Childhood movie.
We're going there. We're going there.
oh, I'll let you guys go first, so that way I could do some deep thinking.
We're going
Bucket.
first. No, it's your turn first. Your show.
Well, I did mention it before, but I'd say Back to the Future 1 and 2. That I could relive
Okay,
over and over.
Childhood movie. You know what? I loved Uncle Buck. That was one of my favorite.
The late great John Candy.
That's right.
Yeah.
And you know
God rest
what?
his soul.
That guy was really, really funny, and they were able to. That movie was so good that they were able to make an entire series out of it. And that movie actually, I think, so the movie Home Alone.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
So the whole reason why Home Alone even got created was because there was a scene in Uncle Buck where basically Macaulay Culkin opened up the letterbox opener and saw three faces as a prank, and that scared him, and that was the inspiration to make Home Alone. So I aside from all that, I mean, it's like I liked Uncle Buck because the thing is about it, it was like Uncle Buck's this rude gangster like uncle kind of thing that no one really likes. But he's, for some strange reason, he's able to put the family together and create what would normally be a broken home into a stable home. And I think we can all learn from that movie, and it was just such a heartfelt
I
movie.
think I would also say Home Alone 1 and 2 as well, because it gives you that feeling of, oh, it's really Christmas. I'd love to go to New York, experience the snow and the cold. But then again, another childhood favorite movie would have to be Karate Kid, because if, going back to the yesteryear of America and, then going to Japan and Mr. Miyagi and wax on, wax off, and, getting the whole story.
Daniel-san.
Yeah. But the thing is, that's where, learning the understanding of Cobra Kai, because Cobra Kai
Was the spin-off of Karate Kid.
Was a spin-off of Karate Kid, and deep down inside, all of us wanted to learn from Mr. Miyagi. All of us wanted to be part of the Miyagi-Do. All of us wanted to experience being a Karate Kid, listening to 80s music and sort of having different sceneries. And when they redid Cobra Kai and he went back to Japan, back to where Mr. Miyagi's from, and saw his, the girl he fell in love with, and, sort of seeing the different atmosphere and scenery of Japan and then America, and the story. See, that's storytelling that for me has a beginning, middle, and an end. And with season 4 approaching, we're going to get so much more. That's what I love Karate Kid. I think that's one I could really.
You know what I like? The funny thing about Karate Kid is that my dad had a porch, and we came from a Chinese family. And I actually said to my dad, I'm happy to basically clean that porch for you if you just give me half a chance. And the only reason why I did that is because I liked Karate Kid. And my dad had these bamboo type plants in his backyard. And basically, my dad was like, where's my Chinese chopper? Has anyone seen my Chinese chopper? And they're like, no, no. And,
Yes.
and I basically had the Chinese chopper cutting down the bamboo. And basically my brother, all my brothers, my dad, just all shouted out, Philip!
Run.
What about you,
Oh,
Leon?
jeez. Oh, my God. Well, you mentioned John Candy. He's going to throw one out there. Cool Runnings.
Oh, yes.
How good was that? That was that was an amazing movie. Nobody would ever thought that Jamaica would actually have a bobsled team, considering they don't really have snow. It's been summer pretty much all year round anyway. I was one of those. I was more of a person that got lost in the moment of Disney movies. All the older Disney movies, Disney cartoon movies. My absolute favorite was Robin Hood. The animal version of Robin Hood. That was my absolute favorite because of the way it was. It still is. As to this day, it actually still is my favorite movie. That would be
that one does hold up. I love that movie.
Yeah, it was three different stories. It was three different storylines, but they all had that moment, a start, like you said, Kat, a middle, and also an end in every single one of them. That I don't think you'll get a better movie if you go back and watch it. I don't think you'll get a better movie than the cartoon version of Disney's, or the cartoon animal version of Disney's Robin Hood.
I also love Kevin Costner's Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. Oh my God,
No,
great
that was a
movie.
great movie.
Speaking of Robin Hood, what about Robin Hood Men in Tights?
Oh yes.
That was
How
just
funny was that?
absolutely hilarious.
The
Mel
spoof of it.
Brooks is absolutely insane. Putting that
genius.
version together and had a dyslexic sheriff of Nottingham. That was just absolutely crazy. There was so much crap about that movie. It was so wrong, but yet so funny, especially when one of the guys is starting to get beat up and saying, "Hold on, I need to get some air." And all of a sudden he's looking down to his shoes, pumping up his Reebok Airs before they continue on. And all of a sudden the buildings at Sherwood inside the castle had exit signs on them. They had the green exit signs on them like you would at the normal cinemas. Oh my God, it was so over the top ridiculous, and it was just so absolutely funny. That Robin Hood Men in Tights, if you've never seen it
I've seen
before,
it. It's
guys,
funny.
if you've never seen it before, I'm telling you subs right now, if you've never seen it, watch it. You'll absolutely fall over laughing.
I loved it. I loved it when I saw it. Next question. Next question. Can cinema still be used as a vehicle to play musicals in the same capacity as older movies such as The Sound of Music, Oliver Twist, and Annie?
It's perhaps like I saw Moulin Rouge, right, and that was a musical. But the thing is,
God, that was awesome.
I didn't know that was a musical. For all I knew, I thought that was just a movie about pause, really. And when I saw it, I was like utterly disappointed.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to disrespect the actors and the actresses and people who made that movie, but it was terrible. It was just really sad, depressing movie, really terrible.
Is that because it had Nicole Kidman and Baz Luhrmann in it?
No, it had Ewan McGregor and it had Nicole Kidman.
There you go.
But they also had Kylie Minogue in a 22nd spot there, and their acting was terrible. I'm sorry, it was the worst movie ever made.
I
0 out of 10.
I particularly didn't like that movie. I know that they've made that movie better before, but I particularly didn't actually like it. But I do remember a time when musicals were actually in. So Blues Brothers, for example, that was a musical, okay, and that was like
it was too.
Band. And I do remember watching The Sound of Music at the movies, and that was a great movie. And there were lots of Grease, again, another one that was a musical.
That was probably, if you go to the favorite ones, that would have been my all-time favorite musical. But anyway, continue on.
But you know what? I saw Footloose, and I remember that was great. But I think musicals are for a particular type of age. And I think musicals are great for children because children get exposed to music and we're learning and whatever.
Growing.
But when you start to grow up and get a bit older, and when you have kind of like these cross themes happening on, especially when you're trying to appeal to both an adult audience and a child audience at the same time, I think it gets a little bit more difficult. And the musicals that I've actually seen at the Opera House and before, they go into themes which maybe only adults understand, kind of thing.
Well, I think, sorry to cut off, but if you go to the movies, you see they have a lot of Bollywood movies, and I've got a couple of Bollywood movies on DVD myself, but they've got Bollywood movies, so that's kind of like a musical type of thing. It's acting, but it's also musical because they're singing, they're dancing, they're acting. So I don't see why cinemas can't bring back things like The Sound of Music or West Side Story or Annie or, Oliver Twist or just musicals that, are appreciated for their storytelling, for their music, family friendly orientated, really rich in culture, rich in food, rich in sound, people like me, I was born at the end of 81, so I wouldn't have been born at the time Sound of Music was made or Oliver Twist or things like that, West Side Story. But growing up watching it, I think it would be nice to have that, come back, bring it back.
You would have been around about the same time as like Footloose and also Fame. There you go. There's one from there. You wouldn't have been around for the Saturday Night Fever era or Grease.
No.
But
I'm at the end of 81 now.
Well, I remember watching Fame on television, right? And I loved that movie, but there were bits in that movie, again, that I didn't quite understand. Like the fact that there were actors and actresses getting exploited by the industry. But I'm sure if I watched it again, I'd understand that those people were being exploited. But I love the song. I couldn't get that song out of my head throughout the 80s because it was stuck in my head. I loved it.
I think it's probably one of the most iconic musical songs from the 80s. Just like Staying Alive was probably one of the most iconic musical songs from the 70s. So there you go.
Like, for example, nowadays there's a movie about the late Princess Diana called Spencer. It hasn't arrived in Australia yet, but
isn't that controversial one, or is it
Yes.
or am I thinking of a different movie?
No, it's the one where with Kristen Stewart and from Twilight, and she plays Diana. And I think if we look at it, we're talking about favorite movies, but let's talk about that for a moment. Why, like, we have seen Diana. We know Diana. We know how she died. Rest her soul. God rest her soul. Why are people creating movies about someone like when they made when Queen made Bohemian Rhapsody with Rami Malek? That was genius. You didn't see them going, oh, let's make a part 2 about how he died. No, they stopped when they said he's our family member. He's also our best friend. He's, the leader of the band. Let's talk about let's make it about his life, his music, his legacy. You don't see them making a movie going, let's make part 2 of Bohemian Rhapsody. No, because people are going to get bored. Thing is, why make so many Diana movies? We all know what happened. We know the conspiracy theories. We know the stories, the plot lines, the twists. Even in The Crown, it was depicted. And, movies are meant to take your imagination on a wild ride. And you're supposed to have that, oh, wow, I definitely want to see that again. But bringing something like Spencer is going to go, yeah, I'll definitely go to the movies to see it. Don't get me wrong. But after the first time, I'd be like, yeah, I don't think I'll go back, because it's sort of like, we all know. Movies are supposed to take our imagination on a wild ride, fun. People love comedy, people love action, people love thriller, people love sci-fi, people love horror.
I think one of the things I haven't seen Spencer yet, so I can't really judge Spencer. But my brother would basically say that one of the reasons why he hates Diana movies isn't because he hates Diana, because he doesn't. But he hates the fact that there's a little piece of information that gets discovered about Diana, and then that's enough to basically get directors to make another movie Diana, even though it's the same recycled information that we already know. Just
with 5% new footage.
Yeah, exactly.
Big deal. 95% is from the old pissing movie, and you're still paying full price. You shouldn't be paying half price for the new footage.
But here's the kicker, right? Here's the kicker. We all know, as Bucket said about Diana, and we're talking about favorite movies. The thing is, right, here's the kicker. We know about Harry and Meghan. We know about Wales and Kate. He's going to become king, should be queen consort. We know about Prince Charles taking the throne. But the thing is, now, it's kind of like, now there's even a documentary coming out about the late Duke of Edinburgh, Philip. Yeah, there's a documentary movie coming out about him. So this thing is, why can't we let these people rest in peace? Leave them alone.
I was always angry at them, especially the British mainstream media after Diana died, because it felt like every month or something there was some new dark secret about Diana. You guys would have remembered this back in 1997. There was always some new BS about it. It was like, for the love of God, she died how many years ago? Let her rest, for the love of. That's the reason that's another reason why mainstream media is not trustworthy, because they're just running crap, absolutely running crap, and painting it like it's front page news, and then having to retract it, which meant they have to eat a little bit of humble pie as well. Yeah, exactly, and apologize to the royal family. That's why you do not go after the royals. I don't care if you like them or you hate them. You do not go there, because you make yourself public enemy number one.
Yep. And
one of the things I think all you really need to do is find out like that Diana probably used a blush or a lipstick that no one ever knew before. And then that would be
there we go. There's a sequel right there. D2.
And what's funny, speaking of
That
favorite movies,
powder.
what's funny, speaking of favorite movies, is apparently now the reason why they're doing Spencer is because her so-called psychic that she was best friends with Diana for 4 years, spoke to her for 4 years.
Mhm.
Oh, Prince Harry contacted me a while ago, asked me about his mother, how she died, things like that. And because he was dating Cressida Bonas, this beautiful, Zimbabwean, socialite, beautiful. Her father's rich, things like that, etc. And she didn't want to be married to him because she didn't want to be part of the royal family. And then she said, "Oh, I told him you are going to marry someone with brown hair." Oh my God, there are 7 billion people in the world with brown hair. And it happened to be Meghan. There's 7 billion people in the world that have brown hair.
Yeah, I'd just like to point out that this only came to light now, right?
That's what they're making this
and basically not before, not before, okay, Diana died. Well, I mean, wouldn't it be like I would, don't get me wrong, because I have a lot of friends that actually are, legit psychics and stuff like that. But wouldn't it be useful if they found out this information before Harry actually got married, or even before Diana died? But no, it only has to be revealed after Diana dies or Harry gets married.
This will be the headline for the next movie. It's called The Fortune Teller.
Actually, there's a documentary coming out called The Princes and the Press, or something like that. And
The Princes and the Paupers. That's what it should have been.
Well, speaking of favorite movies, they've got to stop making Diana movies, because they need to stop exploiting Diana. They need to stop exploiting her vulnerability. They need to stop exploiting her heart and soul. And they need
what country where those kind of movies don't sell? In the UK. That's why you don't make them. If you can't get them to sell in the UK, you don't release them. Well, ask Madonna and Swept Away.
But then you can call it a limited edition, Leon.
Speaking of favorite movies, right? Speaking of favorite movies, you mentioned TV movies. TV movies are just the same as movies. Lifetime made another movie about Harry and Meghan called Harry and Meghan Escaping the Palace. I'm still waiting for it to be dropped so I can buy it. But the thing is, we know that story, and people in the UK have, like, the royal family have barred it from, or banned it yet from being played in the UK, because the Queen does not approve of her grandson Harry,
being exploited.
He exploited the Queen. He exploited his commander-in-chief. He exploited, she's a grandmother. She lost her husband. It's not nice, but at the end of the day, I'm glad TV movies like that get banned, because it was, when I read the reviews, there were a lot of people going, "This is rubbish. We don't condone this. Harry knows what he's done wrong. Meghan knows what he's done wrong." And the fact that they're still using the Duke and Duchess title, everywhere they go. And, TV movies are just the same as being on the big screen,
Except they're on the small screen.
Last question. Are our movies becoming too politically motivated instead of having good old-fashioned quality fun?
Oh, I think so. I think there's a lot of movies, including the new Star Wars, is highly politically motivated. I mean, that was basically a feminist movie. And, you can tell me what way from Sunday that it wasn't, but it was. And you can tell, right? You can tell when you've got basically pretty much all of the generals are female, and all of the male generals are either dead, murdered, or non-existent. And all of the basically skilled pilots that basically saved the day were pretty much talked down to. So that's an example of a political motivated movie. The thing is, China is pretty much famous for having politically motivated movies. And also, so was Nazi Germany. Nazi Germany was also famous for having politically motivated movies, and they made really good politically motivated movies as well.
Schindler's List.
Yeah, but actually, I knew Tom Keneally, who actually wrote Schindler's List. it used to be called something else, but they changed the name. But yeah, I mean, like there's I think a lot of movies today have some sort of message that they want to sell you, as opposed to something where they're making a movie just for the sake of having fun. And I think that's a real shame, to be perfectly honest. Why can't we go to see a movie that doesn't have a message at the end of it? Why can't we have a movie that just makes us laugh?
Exactly. Like,
To be honest, the movies these days, they're getting, like you said, they're getting more and more politically motivated and stuff like that. I would rather them not do that, because they're just like, there's too many people right now believing in this woke culture. I don't want any part of this woke culture. That's why
I agree.
That's why I run my just go crazy every time I hear anything about it. Like, they need to go back to, well, you want to know a good way to make a good movie? As you said, good storytelling, good plot development as it goes through. It doesn't need to be politically motivated. It doesn't need, you're putting politically motivated stuff in there. You're just trying too hard.
Exactly.
It's just, you just don't need to do it. Just go with the flow. Yeah, a natural flow. And that's all you need.
Exactly. I agree. I strongly agree. Like for me, as Bucket said, and you said, I agree with you both very strongly, which is a good storytelling where you need something if you're feeling low or sad or emotional or having one of those days, or you just want to laugh and be happy. A good movie, good old fashioned storytelling movie, a feel good movie of the year where it's like, yeah, I definitely want to go back to the movies again and again and again just to see that one movie. Like, I miss good old fashioned movies. Like the current movies that they make, to be honest, I would not go to the movies to watch them, nor would I get
Yeah.
the DVD.
There's some movies out there right now that are too over the top. I'll give you an example. I'm probably going to get hate mail for it, but Fast and the Furious 9, that is so outrageously over the top. You're not going to have a person driving a freaking car in space. That is not going to happen. You're not going to strap an engine onto you're not going to strap a plane engine onto a car and have it blast up into orbit. That is over the top. It didn't need that. That's just ridiculous, over the top, and just it's way too crazy. I like the Fast and the Furious series of movies. I'm surprised they continued on after Tokyo Drift, which should have been renamed The Death of a Franchise because it was that crap. But Fast and the Furious 9 was probably too over the top. There were scenes in there that just, you're not going to see that in real life. You're not going to picture yourself ever seeing that in real life. That's the problem. They tried to go too over the top with it, and it was just too over the top for my liking. But anyway, that's me ranting.
Well, just, do you know what the funny thing I found about that is that they were willing to basically drop a Ferrari out of space or whatever expensive car out of space when they know full well that they actually have something called an Airbus, which is a plane.
Wasn't that called Airbnb? Isn't that what it's called? Yep.
I think for me, you're right about that. Look, I love Dwayne Johnson. I love The Rock. I've been a fan of it since, the wrestling days. But Paul Walker.
He wasn't in 9.
Paul Walker, may he rest in peace. I think they should have just stopped after he died. Because
to be honest, I think you're right. While we're on that, I reckon they need to stop referencing him, because everybody knows the story. He's dead. He's not coming back. He's been dead for a number of years, and every single movie they've done since his death, they always reference him. Like, look, we know he's dead. There was even a tribute at the end of the movie, at the end of that Fast and Furious movie. I can't remember which one it was, but it had For Paul at the top of the thing at the end credits for that particular movie. We know he's dead. You don't need to reference him anymore. You don't need to reference that particular side of the family anymore,
But do you know
why? But they do every freaking time, and every freaking time they tease Paul Walker is going to be there. He is not. He died. Stop referencing him.
The reason why they say that is because I read about this. I did some research when they were doing these movies, is because they wanted to bring him back as a hologram. And also they had his brother or brothers involved in the franchise and the movies. They actually
I think
completed
they were there.
the
I think they were there to fill the sequences that Paul died before they finished them up. That's the
Yeah.
reason why they called those brothers in.
And also, I think Vin Diesel walked Paul Walker's daughter recently down the aisle when she was getting
He
married.
did too. I remember hearing this. So that was probably if there was a feel good story of 2021, A, that would be one of them. B would be ABBA's comeback after 40 years. That would have been the two moments of the year.
But
Anyway,
I think as much as I love Dwayne Johnson and The Rock, I think they should have just, even though his brother or brothers continued the movie, when I read that they were going to try to bring him back as a hologram, I was like, the dude's a fantastic
that's not going to
actor,
work.
he's a fantastic father, fantastic human being, but leave him alone. God rest his soul, may he rest in peace. Just, not every movie you're gonna, when they win the awards, they go, oh, we made this, thinking of Paul, or they break down and cry. And I know a lot of fans are going to be upset hearing this, or subscribers and viewers, but the thing is,
Even Philip's starting to cry now because we're talking about Paul Walker.
No, I was just thinking,
just
right?
like we appreciate his work and how amazing he was.
Can I say something? Okay, just say Fast and the Furious makes an amazing movie, and they get like 50 Academy Awards in the one movie. And then what about? And they mentioned Paul Walker, and it's all great. And then the next one they make is complete crap. Are they going to mention Paul Walker's name as that? Because if I was Paul Walker and the movie turned out to be crap, and you've used my name 6 times,
I'll be popping out of that gravestone going, "Stop referencing me, you bastards."
But anyways, well, that's last thoughts. Favorite movies?
Well, there was one movie that we didn't actually mention, but that's because we're probably running out of time.
Well, go ahead.
And that's Rebel Without a Cause. And the thing is, that movie was great for a lot of reasons, but one of the greatest reasons why that movie was so great was because they created a movie about what it would look like if there was such a thing called a teenager. Because before that movie, there was basically, there was adults, and then there was young adult, and there was child, but the word teenager never really existed. Now it's in medical journals, it's in everyday society, and we literally have a definition of what teenager actually is. And that was all due to Rebel Without a Cause. That is another great movie that really has had a massive influence on our world, even if it's a tiny little line or a tiny little concept. So I think that's a really great movie that really has made a difference to the world.
If you want a tearjerker movie, right, in my opinion, you watch Jack, the movie that starred Robin Williams, the one where he ages super fast.
Yeah.
That is probably the ultimate tearjerker movie you'll ever see.
God rest his soul. He made great movies.
He did make
Doubtfire.
I love pretty much all his movies that he's made. Especially Night at the Museum.
Night at the Museum. We've got the whole trilogy. Yeah. So we can sit down and watch that. But thank you so much for joining us. It was so much fun. Maybe in the next 2 weeks we can meet up again and do another fun one. Please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and click on the bell, and let us know in the comments if you like the podcast. We're also on Spotify. Follow us there. We're also on Anchor.fm. Make sure you listen. Invite your friends and family from overseas. Let them know that we are everywhere now. And if you'd like to talk about a topic or a conversation, let us know in the comments below.
But by the way, if you've actually got a movie that you actually did like and it wasn't mentioned today,
let us know.
Please let us know.
We'd love to know.
Independence Day, there you go. I got one.
Independence Day.
There you
got one there. You can't say that one now, guys, because I just mentioned it. Independence Day.
Stop ruining
part one, obviously. Part one, because part two was a shocker.
Stop ruining it for our subs.
But anyway, it was so good to see you. Thank you so much. And we'll see you all next week. Until then, have a safe weekend. Enjoy yourself. Stay safe. And God bless. Good night.
Bye.